Hey there, Route 4 students, and welcome to your Vocabulary Companion. Today, we're doing more than just memorizing words. We're actually going to build a story, piece by piece, using vocabulary that can totally change how you talk about our world.
You know, any great story needs the right words. And the ones we're diving into today, well, they help us tell one of the most important stories out there, the story of our planet. We'll look at the problems we're facing, the actions we can take, and, believe it or not, the amazing solutions we are totally capable of creating. So, let's get started.
Our story kicks off, like a lot of good ones do, with a challenge, a really big one. This first batch of words is all about describing those problems and their effects with some real precision so we can get a handle on what's truly at stake.
Okay, let's start with the noun, consequence. Think of this as the what happens next part of the story. You know, every action has a reaction, right? Consequence is what we call that result, especially when it's a serious one. We often hear about having to face the consequences, and when we're talking about the environment, it almost always points to the negative side of things.
So, what actions are we talking about? Well, a huge one is consumption. This noun is all about how much stuff we use. You know, the electricity for our phones, the water in our showers, the gas in our cars. High energy consumption, or over-the-top resource consumption, is like a main character in our environmental story, and it's directly tied to a lot of those consequences we just mentioned.
And this is where things get active. When we have all that consumption, we often release things. This verb, to release, just means to let something out. Picture a factory chimney puffing out smoke. It's releasing gases right into the atmosphere. It's the action that puts harmful stuff where it really doesn't belong.
And check this out. It's like a chain reaction. When those factories release harmful substances, the next step is that they contaminate something. This is a really powerful verb, to contaminate. It means to take something pure, like a river or the air, and make it dirty and unsafe. It's the unfortunate next link in the chain.
And if that high consumption keeps going for a long time, we end up here with this very serious verb, to deplete. It means to just use something up until it's almost all gone. When we deplete our natural resources, like forests or oil, we're setting up a massive problem for the future. You see that chain? High consumption can lead to releasing pollutants that contaminate our world, and eventually it can lead to depletion, a very serious consequence.
Okay, so that part of the story sounds pretty grim, right? But it doesn't end there. Now we get to turn the page to the next chapter, how we respond. Because for every problem, there are people out there trying to find a solution. These are the words of action.
When we decide to act, we've got choices. On one hand, we could use the verb to curb, which is all about slowly and gradually limiting something harmful, like a city trying to curb traffic by adding a few bike lanes each year. But on the other hand, if things are really bad, we might need drastic action. Drastic is an adjective that means extreme and sudden, like banning all cars from downtown overnight. Two very different ways to tackle the same problem.
Now, making a big change like that is usually a two-step deal. First, a government or a company has to adopt a new idea. That's the verb for deciding to use a new policy, like a plan to switch to clean energy. But an idea on paper is just an idea, right? That brings us to step 2. You have to implement it. To implement is the verb for actually putting that plan into action. You know, building the wind turbines, installing the solar panels. So you adopt the policy, then you implement it. That's what makes it real.
And all these actions we're talking about, curbing, adopting, implementing, they can all fit under one powerful noun: intervention. An intervention is when we decide to step into a tough situation to try and make it better. It could be a huge global intervention, like a climate agreement between hundreds of countries, Or it could be something small and local, like your neighborhood starting a recycling program. That's a really good question, because here's where it gets tricky. Making change isn't just about science and plans. It's about people. And, well, people don't always agree on what kind of intervention is best, or even if one is needed at all. And that leads us perfectly to this essential adjective, controversial. When an idea or an intervention causes a ton of public disagreement, we call it controversial. A plan to build a new wind farm, for example, could be super controversial. Some people love the idea of clean energy, but others might worry about how it looks or sounds. It's the perfect word for when you've got a really heated debate with strong feelings on both sides. Okay, so we've covered the problems and the sometimes difficult responses. But now we get to my favorite part of the story, the final and most hopeful chapter, the solutions. This is the language of creating a better, smarter, and more sustainable future.
And right at the heart of finding solutions is this fantastic noun, innovation. Innovation is all about coming up with new ideas, new methods, or new inventions that really make things better. It's not just some new gadget, it's a whole new way of thinking. It's basically the engine that drives us forward.
And this slide breaks it down so well. Innovation isn't just one single thing. As you can see, it could mean adopting renewable energy. It could be creating amazing new tech that can mimic how nature works. Or it could be about fixing problems that are human-induced. Yep, the ones we caused in the first place. Let's take a closer look at those key words. First up, the adjective renewable. This word is the direct answer to that first problem we talked about, having to deplete our resources. Renewable energy sources, like the sun and the wind, are amazing because they won't run out. We can use them today, tomorrow, and 1,000 years from now. Switching to them is a key innovation. Now, this is a seriously cool verb, to mimic. It just means to copy the way something else works. And get this, some of the absolute best innovations mimic nature itself. For example, scientists are developing artificial leaves that mimic photosynthesis to create clean fuel from just sunlight and water. I mean, how cool is that? It's all about learning from the genius of the world around us. Our final word is the verb to induce, which basically just means to cause something to happen. But what's really important here is its common partner, human-induced. This phrase brings our whole story full circle. It connects our solutions all the way back to the start, reminding us that we're often trying to solve problems like climate change that were human-induced to begin with. So, there you have it. From consequence to consumption, from intervention to innovation. You now have the vocabulary to tell a really complex and important story about our planet. These aren't just words on a page, they're tools. So the only question left is, what conversation will you start? Hello, Route 4, and welcome back. It is time to seriously power up your academic language with Part 2 of our Vocabulary Companion for Unit 2, Input 3. All right, no time to waste. Let's dive right in. So, we're kicking things off with the heavy hitters, action verbs. These are the words you're going to use to talk about facing and, solving some really big, complex issues. Think of them as your power tools for making arguments, especially when you're talking about something like climate change. First up, we've got the verb to tackle. Now, listen, this isn't just about dealing with a problem. The key here is a determined effort. When you tackle something, you are actively, forcefully, and with a whole lot of energy trying to solve something that's really tough. It's a strong, powerful word, and here's how you can pop it right into your sentences. Check out these common combos. When you say you want to tackle climate change or tackle an issue, you just sound more serious, more proactive. These phrases, they're pure gold for your essays and discussions. Let's move on to our next verb, to trigger. You know, this is so much more specific than just saying to cause. A trigger is often a small thing that kicks off a much bigger process, like a chain reaction. It's like the very first domino that falls and knocks everything else over. Now, what's really cool about trigger is how flexible it is. It can be a verb, as in to trigger a change, or it can be a noun, like the trigger for the change was, and you've also got the adjectives, triggering to describe the cause and triggered to describe the effect. It's a whole family of useful words. And you can really see its power when we talk about science. For example, pollution can trigger acid rain. One small event can trigger a reaction. A tiny shift in ocean temperatures can trigger extreme weather. See, it's all about that one critical first step that starts the whole process. Okay, our third action verb is to trap. In our context, this basically means to hold on to something and not let it get away. Just picture heat or a gas being caught inside a box it just can't escape from. That's the feeling of trapping. The word family here is super simple but really important. The verb, to trap, that's the action. The adjective, trapped, that describes the state of being caught. So greenhouse gases trap heat, and because of that, the heat becomes trapped in the atmosphere. Simple, right? Exactly. So phrases like trap heat or trap carbon are the absolute bedrock for explaining the greenhouse effect. When you use these, you are describing with real precision one of the main engines of climate change. So, after all this action, we're tackling, we're triggering, we're trapping, we might need to fix things. And for that, we have the verb to undo. This word is all about reversing the effects of something that already happened, which of course brings us to its very important cousin, reverse.
Okay, now this word family introduces an absolutely crucial idea. The big difference is between reversible, meaning, yeah, we can fix it, and irreversible, meaning the damage is permanent, it's done. Is climate change reversible or irreversible? I mean, that is one of the biggest questions of our time.
All right, we have our action words locked in. But now we need the language to describe the situations that these actions create. So, welcome to Section 2, where we are going to focus on some really powerful descriptive words.
First up is an amazing academic adjective, unprecedented. This means something has never, ever happened before in all of history. It's not just new, it's not just unusual, it's completely off the charts new. It instantly adds this huge sense of seriousness and scale to whatever you're talking about. Just listen to how powerful this sentence is. We are facing an unprecedented event. It just grabs your attention, doesn't it? It tells your audience, hey, this is not business as usual. This is a big deal. And it just makes sense, right? When we face these unprecedented events, systems often become vulnerable. To be vulnerable means you're exposed, you're weak, you're easily harmed. An unprecedented storm can leave a whole coastal ecosystem extremely vulnerable to damage. Let's just quickly look at the word family so you can use all its forms. Vulnerable is the adjective. The noun form, vulnerability, is so useful for talking about that state of weakness. For instance, we have to address the ecosystem's vulnerability. So let's connect these two ideas. I want you to pause and really think for a second. How does an unprecedented event make an ecosystem more vulnerable? Well, it's because the system has no defense ready, no experience with something it's never seen before. That's the connection. Fantastic. Okay, let's move on to what I call the building blocks. In this section, we've got a key noun that really is the foundation for describing the natural world. And that word is vegetation. It's such a useful and academic term for just, well, plants in general. Instead of trying to list out trees and bushes and flowers and grass, you can just say vegetation. And here's a pro tip. Make it even better with an adjective, like dense vegetation or native vegetation. Okay, so we've had verbs, we've had adjectives, and we've had nouns. Now for our final and maybe most useful section, expressions for explaining. These phrases are going to make you sound more precise and sophisticated, like instantly. First up, to account for something. This needs to be your go-to expression anytime you're talking about data, numbers, percentages. It means to make up a part of a total. Honestly, it sounds so much more analytical than just saying is.
Here is a perfect example. Fossil fuels still accounted for 84% of the world's energy consumption. See? It's precise, it's data-driven. It shows you're not just reading a number, you're analyzing it. It's perfect for talking about charts or graphs.
Next up, we have to cut back on something. This simply means to reduce. It's a fantastic phrasal verb to use when you're talking about solutions. We need to cut back on waste. We need to cut back on fossil fuels. It's direct, it's clear, it's perfect. Now to really make this one stick, make it personal. Right now, what is one thing, just one, that you could cut back on in your own life? Maybe it's screen time, maybe it's single-use plastics. Thinking of your own example is the best way to remember new words.
And just like that, we're done with another session. And your vocabulary toolkit is looking seriously full. Let's take one last look at all of the awesome new tools you have to work with now.
Look at this list. We started with our power verbs to tackle, trigger, trap, and undo. Then we added those great descriptive words, unprecedented and vulnerable. We got our key noun, vegetation, and we finished with those amazing expressions, to account for and to cut back on. What a set of tools! So, my final question is for you. Which tool from this new kit are you actually excited to use first? Which one are you going to try out in your next essay or your next class discussion to really make your arguments hit harder? Think about it and start using them today. You did some excellent work, Root 4.